laid off.
It's just all kind of a mess.
Shonda Loader, a mother of two in Kentucky, works for the Department of Veterans Affairs. She took the offer, but hasn't gotten any clarity since.
New data shows that the majority of the 8,200 people arrested by ICE have no criminal conviction of any kind. Oh, what? What? That's crazy. Dude, I'm so shocked. Thank God for fucking ProPublica, by the way. This is what I've been saying from day one. Okay? Remember, I was like, where are the journalists? Why are they not logging through all of this data to figure out if these guys actually have any sort of criminal convictions whatsoever? Because the first couple of weeks of ICE activity was immediately met with onboarded Fox News commentators that were doing ride-alongs during these deportation processes and claiming that these were some of the biggest, some of the most prolific rapists of all time. Okay? One of the guys that they detained at an immigration court hearing was a DACA recipient who is a middle school teacher in Florida. This happened yesterday. All the most prolific rapists work at Fox News or own it? Exactly. Yeah, I told you. The notion that they're like going after criminals aggressively is ridiculous. And by the way, 50% of them have no criminal convictions whatsoever. And I'm willing to bet that the remainder, okay, the overwhelming majority of those who have any sort of criminal acts in their past are probably for minor things, like the guy we saw in Guatemala who literally was in the country for 15 years and they got him on trespass. Like, he was deported for trespassing. Okay? Yeah, also in terms of the criminal prosecutions that are coming down for reporting on ICE activity, okay? The FCC is now investigating San Francisco radio station that shared the location of undercover ICE agents. Wonderful stuff. The Federal Communications Commission has launched an investigation into KCBS radio after the San Francisco station broadcast information on live locations of undercover U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents in San Jose. FC Chairman Brendan Carr told Fox News the commission had sent a formal letter of inquiry to the station in response to its January 26th discussion of ICE operations, which he called really concerning. He said that the station had a matter of days left to explain how this could possibly be consistent with their public interest obligations under the FCC license. You had ICE agents undercover doing operations in East San Jose and part of the town known for violent gang activity, and you had this radio station broadcasting a live location identifying the unmarked vehicles that they were in. Have you talked about the Kanye tweets? Not yet. I will get to it. Also, it is utterly irrelevant that Kanye West is once again, behaving like a neo-Nazi in an effort to pump some attention to his upcoming shitty-ass album, okay? There is no one that is this washed. It is the final stage of being washed. I'm sorry, okay? It is utterly ridiculous. He is so fucking washed that he is just simply trying to do the lowest form of attention seeking, which is rage baiting. It is like, it's like when a child is screaming, okay, and shitting in their diapers to get attention. Except this time the child is 50 years old, okay? I think he's just a Nazi now. He has psychosis, not rage bait. Yeah, it's weird that he wasn't tweeting about being a Nazi in the interim. And right up until he decides that, he has a new album coming out, or if he has to do like cryptocurrency or some shit, like right up until the moment where he decides that he needs to be in the public eye again. Is he manic? Yes. Okay. Did that make him more vulnerable to believing ridiculous conspiracies or becoming a neo-Nazi? I'm sure it did. Having said that, however, the timing of this is awfully suspicious. Okay? Jesus Christ. Let's get back to this for now, okay? We're talking about a group of Gestapo soldiers actively coming after the so-called free press in the United States of America, where the First Amendment is supposed to protect this sort of thing, okay? And going to another federal regulatory agency to basically take away their broadcasting license because they don't like what they're broadcasting. Do you understand where we're at right now? You're talking about fucking Kanye West. Like, who gives a shit? Is Kai still collaborating? Again, doubly who gives a shit? Like, this is what I mean. You just want drama, okay? I don't know. Why would I know that? Why would I know the answer to whether or not fucking Kai is going to still collaborate with Kanye West? Like, what a stupid fucking question. Democracy is falling apart, or the theoretical democracy, what is remaining of theoretical democracy is falling apart, and you're like, is Kai still collaborating with Kanye West? I don't know. What the fuck? Go ask him when he's live. It says in the Constitution, is woke is expressly not allowed. Anyway, ridiculous shit. On January 26th, the host of KCBS Radio Weekend News shared the location of agents and the vehicles they were in based on the information from the Rapid Response Network in Santa Clara County, a community organization developed to protect immigrant families from deportation threats. The county's response network says that agents in San Jose were in unmarked vehicles, the host said, describing the color, make, and model of the vehicles before listing the streets and locations they were spotted, which is awesome that they were doing that, by the way. Respect. The Communications Act of 1934 requires that broadcast licenses operate in the public interest, convenience, and necessity. The FCC reserves the right to fine a station or revoke his license if it's found in violation of the public interest standard. How is that not in the public interest? It is directly in the public interest. Trump first appointed Carr to serve on the FCC in 2017 and tapped him to lead the commission in November. During his interview with Fox and Friends on Thursday, Carr said he was trying to look on the bright side, which is that an unprecedented number of deportations have taken place, and for that, thank goodness for President Trump. Fox host Brian Kilmeade noted that Carr previously opposed the effort of billionaire George Soros, a vocal supporter of Democratic candidates and causes, to become the majority shareholder of Audacity by purchasing $400 million of its debt in 2024. The FCC approved this restructuring of Audacity in September. You think more than 48 hours after the start of ICE raids in Denver, Aurora, we'd know just how many people were detained and then taken into custody. We don't. And that's now the story. Let's talk about it. 2 days ago, the feds said it was trying to arrest 100 Tren de Aragua members. I believe the number of Tren de Aragua members that were arrested is 1. Yesterday, we asked ICE how many were detained. Seems like a simple request. Fox News, after all, had reported 30. Keep in mind, Fox has a reason to know. They had a team embedded with ICE on Wednesday. Problem is, 30 was nowhere near 100. But what's even more telling is that as of now, ICE has confirmed that just 1 Tren de Aragua member was detained on Wednesday. 1 is quite a bit less than the 100 that they wanted. We also don't know how they concluded that there were 100 plus Tren de Aragua targets to begin with. It is clear that the Trump administration is trying to spin this as a story about a leak. I addressed this yesterday. So yeah, I'm going to talk about this right now. The Aurora, Colorado situation. Okay. If you recall, the story became one of national prominence when virtually everyone on right-wing media, were, without any evidence whatsoever, relying on a slumlord claiming that a Venezuelan gang had overtaken his apartments. Now, of course, this CBZ management, sorry, that ran a bunch of different slumlords. Sorry, not a bunch of different slumlords. Ran a bunch of different slums. Why are we not talking about Kanye West? Because I will get to it later, and it is, you know what? I'm going to fucking permaban you, you dumb fuck. Okay? Just a couple more times. Fucking idiot. We're going to get to it inevitably. You won't be able to chat, okay? Because I'm a political commentator. And there's more pressing matters to cover, like the one I'm talking about currently. Anyway. So they try to do this thing where they try to make a big show of this falsehood initially. Initially, it was built around a slumlord who managed a bunch of slum properties, low income housing, that were in a dire state, so much so that the local government there had sued the slums and actually declared it unsafe to live inside of these slums because of how awful the situation was. This management company had gotten thousands of complaints across numerous properties that they manage, not simply the one in Aurora, Colorado. Okay? Just remember that. But it did not matter. It didn't matter. They still kept going with this narrative that, like, oh, well, despite the fact that another one of the properties was actually investigated and found to be uninhabitable years before Venezuelans actually even came to Aurora, Colorado. And the second court case that came down for this famous property came down before Venezuelans actually, quote unquote, took over this Aurora, Colorado slum, right? But everybody went along with it. You don't treat the people who bought you that house well, do you? No, I don't. Okay, Stalin, I don't. And the reason why I don't, and the reason why you permanently got banned is because you're selfish. There are 33,540 people in here, okay? You're being unimaginably selfish and going, me, 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 me. Please, cover me. Cover what I want. Cover what I want you to cover. Okay? Yeah. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculously selfish for the 33,500 other people in the chat. Okay? Narcissistic. Anyway, I believe there's some really good local news reporting on this, and I want to pull it up and watch the reporting. But basically, Fox News is straight up, like, doing even more nefariously than in the past. Fox News is just doing straight up propaganda. Okay? Now, the difference here, unlike in the past, is that Fox News is doing this propaganda under its objective reporting wing. Okay? Initially, Fox News used to do this on the editorial side, but now they're doing onboarding. And they're supposed to have an objective news reporting side. And their objective news supporting side is also doing egregious propaganda. Okay? It's ridiculous. So I'm glad that ProPublica has been tasked with at least figuring out what the truth is. Micah Rosenberg writes, alongside Perla Treviso, that Trump's immigration policies and what has been tried before, data we obtained shows less than half of the 8,200 arrests from January 20th to February 2nd have criminal convictions. Okay? Cool Denver article? No, I want the specific Denver local news video coverage on this because it was pretty good. I don't care what side of the debate you're on. If you're in favor of the raids, you should want to know if there are more than performative acts. Here. Oh, this is the one. Yes, thank you. The local. Here, look at this.
Homeland Security Investigations Denver office framed raids across the metro area in simple terms.
These actions were targeted operation focused on violent criminal aliens.
Bro, why does he also sound like Tom Homan? Why does everybody at the Department of Homeland Security sound exactly like Tom Homan? And look, they're so ogre coded.
TDA members and those who are a threat to our public safety.
What he would not say was how many people they arrested, how many were wanted for serious crimes, how many were members of that Venezuelan gang. We know more about a raid 11 days ago in Adams County, where federal agents said they were looking for dangerous criminals with guns and drugs and handed out video of the arrests.
I think the people in the city of Denver woke up today to a safer city.
The Drug Enforcement Administration's top Denver agent hit the airwaves.
These are dangerous criminals. You've seen from those videos that came out of Aurora a few months ago, these guys are carrying pistols and AK-47. These are serious bad guys.
Now, 9 News Investigates has confirmed that no criminal charges have been filed against anyone in that case. None by the U.S. Attorney.
Dangerous criminals with AK-47s. And all they did basically was go door to door, harass and try to detain random people that they suspect of committing the crime of being brown while living on U.S. soil.
None by the Adams County District Attorney.
It should surprise everyone that we're using government resources like the DEA to go and round up people who have no criminal legal case against them.
Laura Lunn is an attorney with the Rocky Mountain Immigrant Advocacy Network, and she says there's a very big difference between facing a criminal charge and being held for an immigration violation.
Immigration detention is civil detention.
Civil detention, where people seemingly disappear. Without a name, there's no way to find out who's being held or what they're accused of.
I think it's very intentional that people in immigration proceedings are detained so that folks don't have access to them to gain information about what their experience is.
One of my comrades, a teacher, the parents of one of their students never showed up to pick them up from school. They now have family friends watching them. Still aren't sure what happened to the parents. There were raids yesterday in my apartment complex. I live in Aurora, Colorado. Also, I will be picketing in solidarity at my local King Super this week for the Kroger union strike. Yeah. They're going door to door. They're doing door to door operations and basically trying to snag as many people as they possibly can.
Road offer. Checking out the massive and quite weird eagle population on the edge of the
no, this is the
said they only made yesterday. Members of the
This is all
and
of the
the results announced today by Fox News Channel. ICE agents said they were going after 100 members of the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua in Denver and Aurora yesterday. Now, while the feds refused to tell journalists just how many arrests they made and how many of them were TDA members, The Fox News reporter embedded with agents said they only made 30 arrests, and just one was a TDA member. Fox News and the Trump administration are now blaming local media outlets for the lack of success.
Yeah, this is what I was going to say. This is the other angle of this that I wanted to cover. They're claiming that the reason why they can't actually apprehend these like crazy criminals is not because they're not really interested in apprehending these, you know, really violent, crazy criminals or whatever, and simply trying to do a racist dragnet. Despite the fact that they're claiming that they're going after these like super violent criminals, it's because the media is reporting on it. And it's leaking it. It's leaking it ahead of time. And then, you know, everybody gets to run away.
It certainly felt like everybody knew this was coming, including the targets and the local media.
There were some leaks from local media that tipped off the local activists on the ground, and it made your jobs difficult.
We've already identified how this operation got leaked. I'll deal with that today.
Immigrant communities in Denver and Aurora have been expecting yesterday's raids ever since Donald Trump campaigned on a promise that he would start his mass deportation here. Many of the properties involved in the raids were also no-brainers. They're linked to CBZ Management, the landlords that made national headlines by claiming takeovers by the Venezuelan gang. And as those raids played out publicly for hours yesterday, community members and activists gathered to heckle agents from afar, shouting legal advice to the people inside apartments as agents went door to door asking people for their papers.
Interesting. I can't seem to put my finger on what this reminds me of, you know? Straight Nazi shit. That's what.
Today, Trump's borders are. Tom Homan threatened federal prosecutions for people he says are.
What happens if you don't open the door? Nothing. Nothing. And you shouldn't. Okay? It is illegal for them to break in unless they have a search warrant. Okay? That's it. The fact that they're just like trying to go to every single person door to door with the hopes that they can nab someone who is not aware of their rights, their constitution protected rights, is ridiculous. They need a search warrant signed by a judge to be able to go into your home. Okay?
Are impeding their operations. Now, the feds say they were targeting violent criminals. We continue to ask just how many of the people arrested in Colorado yesterday were violent criminals, as opposed to people who had civil immigration violations and were picked up because they couldn't show papers.
Why are you adding Zach Rohr in my chat? Zach Rohr, why are you saying that like it's not literally what MAGA believes? I think you're in the wrong chat. Chatter.
Suggested today that the lack of success in this week's raids means more non-criminals will be arrested in the future.
We go on these operations, the operation got leaked somehow, it makes us less successful. Again, when you leak an operation, it means more bad guys are not being arrested, which means more bad guys are walking the streets. So as we address that, you're going to see the arrests increase. As the aperture opens up beyond the criminals, you're going to see more arrests.
So let's look more closely now at the Trump administration's claim that this week's ICE raids failed because the local media in Colorado leaked the operation. You may recall that multiple national media outlets reported that these raids were supposed to happen last Thursday. That operation was apparently pushed back after it became widely known ahead of the fact. Our Evan Krugel's along now to explain that when these raids did happen, Evan, federal agents had Fox News along for the ride, and this was a pretty conspicuous parade around town.
It was, Kyle. It's worth noting ICE did very little to hide or disguise those operations yesterday. We got multiple calls from community members who saw them staging in a large parking lot in southeast Denver. So we showed up and decided to follow at a distance as they made their way up I-25 to Thornton.
This local reporting is fantastic, by the way, and I'm so glad that there are still people out there doing real fucking journalism. Holy shit.
It was clear even before sunrise Wednesday that ICE operations were underway. Agents gathered with buses and armored vehicles in high-traffic retail parking lots, including one in southeast Denver, where a photojournalist and I found a convoy and followed it more than 20 miles down I-25 to Thornton, where officers spent another hour prepping an armored vehicle as a cable news channel tagged along for the ride. It didn't take long for people to see them and for activists to show up at the park.
And what is happening with President Donald Trump is that he is, and his administration is, creating a spectacle.
Kareem El-Damanhouri is a journalism professor at DU and says he was not surprised to see such a visible operation and to see select national media invited along to showcase it. He says look no further than President Trump's campaign promise in October to target Colorado.
We will have an Operation Aurora at the federal level.
NBC reported the operation was supposed to start last week, but it was pushed back after the plans became public.
The operation was leaked. And again, we're going to hold those people accountable once we find out what those leaks occurred. This isn't a game.
Border Czar Tom Homan said Wednesday's operation was less successful because of supposed leaks.
We may have to stop the media ride-alongs because I'm not pointing the finger at them, but the less people that know about these operations, the safer it is for our agents.
Some leaks can be harmful to certain operations, some leaks aren't. So it's just a matter of social responsibility in a way, both by the politicians and by the media. So it applies both ways.
El-Damanhouri says journalists will play an important role in the weeks to come as we wait to find out how many people were actually arrested and why.
People tend to forget, or certain things tend to dissipate. So this is, again, role of the journalists to try to follow up on those type of stories and find out, what has been going on, what are the updates of people who might have been caught up in the midst of that.
To be clear, we as an organization are not accepting any invitations for ride-alongs with immigration officials at this time. We will, however, continue to respond and report on what we see at those operations. Kyle.
Another thing that I heard today on Fox News was surprise that when the immigration agents got to some of these infamous apartments in Aurora, that they were largely empty. I mean, we've been talking about in the local media for months now that a lot of people have moved out of those problematic apartments. That's been going on for some time.
Yeah, they did this specifically. They did this specifically because they wanted to make a show of it. Most of the immigration enforcement actions that you're seeing, all the way from the messaging surrounding it, constantly claiming that these are like really, really violent criminals and whatnot, is all done to basically beef up the Trump agenda and to justify increased enforcement. Okay? That's why they're lying and claiming that they're apprehending violent criminals, when in fact they're not doing that. They're actually just going after whoever they can that they catch that is undocumented or sometimes literally documented, but are not a natural-born U.S. citizen, like the DACA middle school teacher that was apprehended at a immigration court proceeding. Like that's a documented immigrant. That is not an undocumented migrant. That is a documented immigrant, okay? That's crazy. They're also detaining people for speaking Spanish and not having paperwork on them. So even if you are a documented natural-born American who happens to be speaking Spanish, you can still be detained. That should probably reveal to all of you what the actual intention is here. They're going after tribal members, Native Americans. Think about that. Think about what that means, why that's happening.
Yeah, the edge at Lowry, Whispering Pines, these were pretty obvious places for operations to begin. We still don't know why they made their way to Thornton to that mobile home park. You heard Fox News. They had some information from ICE on who they were going after there. We repeatedly pressed ICE for that information today and did not get it, Kyle. That will be a big story here. Who gets information moving forward and when?
Yep, because at the end of the day, public wants to know what's going on, right? Yep. That's the end of the story. All right, Evan Krugel, thank you. There's finally been a conviction for.
Anyway, that's the end of that. That's the end of that. Tamam. My mom is trying to talk to me. This badass lady is cursing ICE on Fox News. Anyway, oh yeah, when they did the Operation Ride Along, like the locals were shitting on ICE apparently too. Here, let's watch
ICE
this.
was met by activists who taunted them. And others who used megaphones to coach those living inside. DEA agents used flashbangs inside while serving a warrant. That led to a handful of arrests, but no TDA gang members. A stop at another apartment complex netted no arrests.
That first woman in the parking lot holding her coffee cup and cussing them out, they described her as an activist. I don't know, maybe she is. Looked to me like a super annoyed neighbor who was angry to see a bunch of ICE agents dressed up like the 82nd Airborne in her apartment building's parking lot. The day after that footage was released, Trump's border czar, Tom Homan, announced that these media ride-alongs might be coming to an end because of operational security.
Yeah. They thought they could get away with captive media. They thought they could get away with like, Fox News onboarding on these things to make them look cool and badass and just do propaganda. And then, obviously it shows the depravity, the moral depravity of the entire situation. So they might actually stop these highly televised, publicized media ride-alongs. Ugh. It's truly insane what is going on right now. The fact that we don't have accurate information instantly on the detentions and how many of them are violent criminals and what kind of crimes they have been charged with, whether or not there has been a court process. I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. I mentioned this when I was in Japan as well. A lot of people got mad at me when we were looking at the first ICE ride-alongs that Fox News did. If you recall, the question I had was, who are these people?